Marianne Binetti, and in the fall, it's time for some garden cleanup. But deciding what do you cut back, what do you don't, what you leave is different and difficult depending on where you live and what you're growing. So here's some general rules of green thumb. First of all, if it's brown, cut it down. What does that mean? Well, when plants turn brown, they're done making chlorophyll and making energy for next year's plants when you're talking about perennials, so it's okay to cut them back close to the ground. Here's an example. This is the stem of a lily, and lily plants, let me go ahead, I'm going to cut this, I'm going to cut these brown tomato stems out of the way, because if it's brown, cut them down. So now you can see, here's the support system I had for when the lily was in flower. I can take that out, it's fall, and I'll store that under cover for next year. And because the leaves of this lily have already turned yellow and brown, there's no green left. Therefore, the lily stem and leaves is no longer making food for next year's bloom. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off, but I'm not going to cut it right to ground level. No, because I'm a very forgetful gardener, and I'll forget there's a lily bulb there, and I'll dig into it in the spring and plant something, and I'll damage the lily bulb. So I'm going to leave the stem a good 6 inches, so I'll know there's a bulb underneath there and not to dig. So this stem can go into the compost pile. But there's another tip I want to give you. This stem, right, that I left here, it is pointing sideways, which is perfect. If you cut a lily stem down and you leave it pointing straight up without knocking it down sideways, water can collect in the stem, and that water goes down to the lily bulb, making it more likely that it'll rot in a wet winter situation. So, leaving the stem where it's pointed sideways so water doesn't collect, but you remove the stem is the perfect thing. So right next to it you see a tomato plant. Now this is the cherry tomatoes, and what I'm going to do, harvest the entire stems. I'm going to take these stems and just put them in a cool, dry spot in the garage, maybe on some newspapers so they don't touch, so that I can slowly but surely enjoy the harvest of the tomatoes. All these greens, even though they're not brown, I'm cutting them down because it's fall, and these yellow blooms here, they're never going to make fruit and ripen before the first hard frost. So I'm going to continue. When I see that there's some blackness on these stems, well, that's bad news, because that could mean the tomato blight, the late tomato blight, has hit my tomato plants. What that means is I'm going to take these stems, cut it right from the ground here, and I'm going to take the entire plant and put it in a plastic bag and send it out with the garbage. I don't want to compost anything that I think may have diseases in it. So I think it's easier with tomatoes. Tomatoes, you can usually just uproot them. And then you could rip out the entire plant, put it in a plastic bag, stick it in your garbage, and not compost any tomato plant that has this blackness on the stems or the leaves, just in case you have tomato blight. I'm not sure if I do or not, but better to be safe than sorry. So there you go. As you go through your garden in the fall, if it's brown, cut it down. That means brown hosta leaves. That means the brown leaves of any of your perennials. Go ahead and cut them back. Something that still has flowers, like maybe your asters or dahlias, I think I'll talk about those next, so you'll know what to do with the fall blooming perennials that are in your garden now. This has been Marianne Binetti with Easy Answers for Great Gardens.
If you enjoyed these gardening tips, subscribe to our channel so you can get updates on new videos and stay in the know about all things gardening. Click the red subscribe button below. See the description below for more information about how to connect with us on PlantersPlace.com, Facebook, and Instagram.